So, welcome. We are here today with Caitlyn Howe. Caitlyn is a past participant of the Queen City Marathon. She's also participated in the Boston Marathon and is currently working on completing the World Majors. And I've actually known Caitlyn for a number of years through her lifeguarding background and know her parents. And she describes her parents as her inspiration for running, which I completely understand and get. So, welcome today, Caitlyn.
Thank you.
So let's start today by having you tell us a little bit about your running, your relationship with running, and what got you started.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually just realized when you were asking me about doing this interview that it is my 10-year anniversary since my very first half marathon. So I ran my first half marathon in the May after my first year of university in 2010. And I guess it would have been 2011, but I started training in 2010. So I guess it's almost 10 years. And I kind of did it as a way to relieve stress when I got into university. I did do running when I was younger, mostly with my dad. My dad used to go to the gym every day and run 3 miles. And I remember being in grade 8 and just thinking that that was the coolest thing. So I would go with him like twice a week. And I started by just being able to walk. And then by the end of my grade 8 year, I was running like 3 to 5 miles on the treadmill, like most weeks, like 4 to 5 times a week. Got into cross country in high school, some track, things like that. And then I kind of fell off of it later in high school. I had gotten a summer job lifeguarding, and so I wasn't doing as much running. Got into university. And was really stressed about grades and knowing that I wanted to get into a professional college, and really had a lot of anxiety actually. So I kind of remembered how good running had made me feel. So I started training with a friend of mine for a half marathon and fell in love. And so I have been running 10Ks, half marathons, and a couple marathons since.
Awesome. When you started running with your dad there, how long till you were able to beat him on some of those runs?
It didn't take very long. Yeah, we used to race. Like when I first started, I would like be beat after a mile, like beat. And he would always tease me and kind of, push me. And I didn't I wanted to keep up. I'm competitive that way. So it didn't take very long actually. Like I was running 3 miles straight, probably about like 4 months after I started.
So yeah, I mean, has he ever come out and done any more of the running with you since? Has it become at all a family thing, or more just kind of as cheerleaders?
More as cheerleaders. He actually ended up wrecking his rotator cuff. Okay. Needing surgery, yeah. And then he's hurt his knees a couple of times just from running actually. So he doesn't actually do the running anymore. He does more like stuff in the pool with mom and some biking, things like that. But he's been a pretty good cheerleader.
Nothing wrong with that. They're both staying active, and that's really what the important thing is. We have to have cheerleaders for our running, but we got to all stay active. Like you were saying, you kind of got into running not just for the physical aspect of it, but really the mental side of it. And that is very, very important, that we can use that as a stress relief. In terms of the running that you've done so far, are there things that you look back at and you've got kind of some proud moments, things that you would highlight as what you've done so far?
Oh yeah. So my first half marathon, I kind of just went in blindly. I was just excited to finish. And I remember being really excited about my first time. I did my first half marathon in 1 hour and 52 minutes. And I was so excited that I was under 2 hours. And I didn't really feel that tired at the end. Like I was waiting to get really tired, and it never really happened. And I just remember like that moment of being like, I feel good at the end of a half marathon, my first ever half marathon. And then I kind of kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So then I decided I wanted to run a full marathon because I wanted to qualify for Boston. And I remember running my full marathon, and I was actually in medical school at the time. So I didn't have that much time to train. And I remember being so scared for my first full marathon. I thought I was going to do terrible. I was like, there's no way I'm going to qualify in this race. And I found this just super friendly person at like, oh, it must have been like 15 kilometers in, who I had been kind of racing just behind. And I kind of started slowing down. I was not really in the right mind space, maybe. And I remember her turning around and be like, hey, don't you dare make me run the rest of this by myself. And so I sped up, and her and I chatted for like the next 20 kilometers. And then right around like 32 kilometers, my mom and I had a whole cheering team, oh, it must have been like 20 20 adults from my med school class, all had made posters and like came out and were like cheering for me. And my mom had like cold washcloths because it was hot. And I remember just like dabbing my face with a cold washcloth and being like just recharged by the whole thing. And I actually ended up coming in second overall for females at that marathon, my first ever marathon. And like that was a pretty proud moment for me.
Amazing.
And then Boston.
Yeah, I mean, Boston's always going to be one of those highlights to be able to do, and everyone I think who's run that would agree. Really interesting to hear about that qualifying run, though, in terms of the connection you make on the course itself with someone that you've never met, and then just how some friendly faces on the course can just be enough to push you to that next level and really make you forget about the pain and suffering that's happening, and remind you of what the goals really are and what's important, and really that family, whether it's the family of runners or whether it's your biological family, both of those are going to be very, very important out there. That's really interesting. I like those stories. In terms of the next couple of years, what's the goals? What are you working on? What do you want to achieve still? I mean, you definitely want to do those majors. Are there other things along with that?
I really want to get a couple triathlons in. I had signed up for 2 this summer, of course, neither of which ended up happening, which is, well, actually, I didn't end up getting to sign up even. They've never even posted the sign up. So a triathlon is definitely in my future. I love swimming, obviously, based on my background in aquatics. But I also am teaching myself to love to bike. So I really want to do a triathlon in the next couple of years. I'm doing a virtual marathon in a month. So I'm hoping to kind of get back into marathons. It's Boston in 2017 was my last full marathon. And I injured myself during it. So I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth for the full marathons after that. But I'm getting back to them very slowly and carefully and properly. I'm not going to overtrain like I did last time. So a couple full marathons, hopefully a triathlon. I really want to get one of those in.
It's neat to hear we're seeing people start to make that transition to other sports or other disciplines, I guess, whether it's the triathlons or some people are moving towards the obstacle racing as well. Sometimes running kind of that entry level or enter into some of those other different disciplines, which is really nice to see people moving back and forth. Tell us about your running community. So who do you train with? What does that look like? Especially right now with the pandemic, how does that fit for you?
Yeah, so the pandemic has made it hard because, I mean, just being that I'm a doctor in our community and being that I work kind of at the COVID center and stuff, I really am trying very hard to maintain all of the social distance recommendations, and like I'm trying to keep my pods small so that I don't put others at risk, because I would be the high risk like person to spread something just because I do interact with so many people. So I've kept my running pod pretty small. Myself and Andrea Amiot, she is a huge active like Wonder Woman here in Moose Jaw. She's like my like motivator. Her and I go running together at least 3 times a week. She is like we've just fit, like we pace the exact same, and we are able to kind of push each other when we need to, and basically we just talk the entire time we run. It's wonderful. The time just passes so quickly. And then also, of course, my good friend Ryan, he's in Calgary now, but him and I love running together, and I follow him on my Strava account. And of course, so when we were originally planning to run a marathon together in May, we had been training together virtually, which was really fun. And then Emily Van Heerden, in Regina, her and I, pretty much anytime we get together for a catch up, we go for a run and chat, and yeah.
Very cool. It's nice to have that support of other people around you to make sure, whether they're locally there in Moose Jaw with you or whether they're even virtually. It sounds like you were prepared for the virtual thing before we all even had to go virtual with everything. So you were ahead of the curve on that one, which is super cool.
I guess.
In terms of you being a medical doctor, how does that fit, you think, for working with some of your patients, for example, the running, walking concept and encouraging them to be active? Is it something that you can be a role model within the community of Moose Jaw as a doctor and use kind of your platform there to encourage people or recommend people stay active?
I hope so. Yeah, I guess I'm a huge advocate of like lifestyle modifications for pretty much everything. You'll be hard pressed to come to me and say, you know, I have this problem. I will pretty much recommend exercise in some form to everyone because there's very few things that it will not help. And so I'm a huge advocate for staying active. And I don't know, I think I do feel like I have maybe a bit of leverage being that I stay very active and that my activity level came from I needed an outlet. I needed something to help me cope with anxiety. I needed to not pull my hair out during final exams for 10 plus years in post-secondary. So I feel like I come from this background where like I understand stress and I think that I can be pretty confident, and I'm pretty open with my patients. Like I can tell them like, hey, like if you can find something that you like, you are going to feel better after you do it. You might still need medication because some people just do, but exercise is going to make you feel better. And so I think that I have a little bit of leverage being that I do it myself.
No, I think that's really, I'm a strong believer in everything you've said there. I think that's an important piece. I've always kind of wished it would be a bigger recommendation always coming from the medical industry right across the province and the country and around the world, exercise. And I think like you're saying, it's almost more important for the mental side than it almost is for the physical side and how to deal with stress and anxiety and just our normal daily goings on. I mean, the physical element is obvious and easy to see. It's the other side that sometimes people don't necessarily see the correlation to, but I think you speak to it very well on that sense. I think that leads us to our last question. If you had some advice for people who wanted to take up running or those of us who've been running for a number of years, what would be the advice that kind of Caitlyn lives by?
I think this is a fun question because I actually just have a new piece that I added in very recently. So for people who are new to running, basically my biggest advice is do not be discouraged. Nobody, and I say that obviously like some people are just superhuman, but nobody normal ever goes out and runs their first marathon and it's 2 hours. Like nobody goes out and runs their first 10K and feels 100% amazing after. You just start running, do run walking, do walk running, do anything, just get out and be active. Your body will get better. You will get stronger. Your run will get faster, or you won't. You don't have to be fast to be a runner. You don't have to go for kilometers at a time. If you can go out and you can run 1 kilometer and walk 1 kilometer, you're a runner. Like you don't need to do super long races or even super long distances or times. Just get out and do it. Find something that makes you happy while you do it. So I'm a huge fan of talking when I run. I love to chat when I run. It distracts me. I think it helps with breathing for some reason. Also because I just talk a lot. So I think maybe that's why. And that's for my long runs. I know that I don't like long runs by myself as much because I find that they're tedious. If you really like music, use it as your alone time. Listen to a new album and just go for a run. Feel free to distract yourself. Don't run somewhere that makes you sad. So if a treadmill makes you sad, don't run on a treadmill. Go outside and run outside. That's my biggest advice for a new runner, is just make it yours, make it something that you feel good doing, but also that you look forward to doing. It needs to be exciting for you. And then the new piece that I have is being that I've been doing this for like 10 years now. I kind of thought like, oh, I've got a bit of a swing to it. And then I just in the last couple of weeks decided to try and do a sub 20 5K run. And I ran an 18:30 5K recently, like 3 weeks ago. And I've never considered myself to be like a sprinter or fast. And I certainly didn't think that I could do that with my 5'2" frame. And it was really exciting to see that like I've actually changed. Like my running is getting better, my running is getting stronger, despite that I've been doing this for so long. That there's still benefit to be had. There's still things to reach for and improvements to be made. And I don't know, for me, I guess that was like an exciting realization. So like, don't get complacent. Like even if I run my race at this time or this pace, keep working, keep pushing it, because you never know what's going to happen.
I think what you're saying is little goals all the way through, whether that's time, whether that's distance, whether that's consistency. I think that is great advice for both new and experienced runners, is set little goals, continue to work towards those, and new things will continue to be achieved all of the time. Whether it's faster, farther, or just more often, that's going to be a great way to move each and every one of us forward. So with that, thank you very much for your time today, Caitlyn, and wish you great luck with your virtual race coming up. And we will chat again soon.
Thank you.